41.
The Radio Wammo Breakfast
The voice of the creative economy.
with Vincent Heeringa.
From Idealog magazine, idealog.co.nz. Good morning to you, Vincent.
Good morning, Wammo.
Good morning, and we're talking about the death of the World Wide Web. Well, according to Wired magazine anyway, Vincent.
According to Chris Anderson, more in particular, who's the editor-in-chief of Wired, and he was the man of the long tail. I don't know if you remember a few years ago there was a book called The Long Tail, all about the economics of the web, which was supposed to make available a little bit like an Amazon. You can get any book anywhere from Amazon, and the point is the economics of the web made it possible for you to get an obscure book from somewhere in the world.
And also made it possible to exist as an obscure business as well.
Yeah, exactly. So you could make money out of the long tail rather than out of the blockbuster. It's not exactly turned out to be true, particularly in terms of anything involving content like books or movies or journalism or music, because all that happens is digital content gets pirated and made available for free. And so the long tail actually is just a great big long free tail.
Well, I think the jury's still out on that one.
Well, it is, and part two, I suppose, of his proposition, or even part three, because he came up with part two was his invention of the word freemium, which was another fancy way of saying try before you buy. And he was arguing that free is the currency of the web, and freemium is the only solution to that, where you try something for a while for free and then it gets turned into a paid-for service. So the likes of iTunes, where you can try for a little while, or Spotify, which is the iTunes rival. You can try things, on a 30-day trial, and then you've got to, or you can get a level of service for free, but then you've got to pay for the full-blown thing.
Which, of course, is an app, and what he's saying is that two decades after its birth, the World Wide Web is in decline.
Yes, and technically he's correct. I mean, there is they open their story, and it's on the web, by the way, and it's free, kind of ironic. They open their story with a graph that shows what kind of sources you make up the web, and it's kind of interesting to see that the web, as in the World Wide Web, peaked probably at about 50% of internet, US internet traffic in about 2000, and is now down to around about 23%, 24% now. Video and peer-to-peer make up the bulk of the balance, and video in particular is growing massively over the net.
It's got to be a good thing, Vincent.
It's got to be cool, doesn't it? I mean, looking forward to watching videos on the net in a proper high-def form. But his point is that what's happening with the web is the free, open, browser-based experience of the web, where you type in a search term in the likes of a Google or a Yahoo or I can't even remember the old browsers anymore, Alta Vista, and you found something on a website. Those days are quickly being replaced by apps, where you just go directly to your favourite app, and you just skip the World Wide Web and go straight to the internet site where that app is based. And
right.
A good comparison is the dominance of iTunes compared to something like LimeWire. And it's kind of interesting that LimeWire will deliver you your song for free, but probably not in very good quality, and you'd still have to do the searching. Whereas iTunes has packaged it up, it's going to deliver it to you in a high definition, high resolution form, and also with that slight moral kind of superiority of, yes, I've done right by the artist and by the industry. I'm paying for what I'm using rather than feeling like a dirty thief.
Because a lot of people, when the World Wide Web started getting popular, were like, well, this is the Wild West, and this is almost the ultimate human freedom to be able to go and choose and decide where you want to browse and what you want to look at and how you want to read it and all those kind of things.
Yeah.
But maybe that goes against the human nature in that we'd rather someone sort of point us in the right direction, or just guide us through, so we don't have to think too much. I mean, we want to get what we want, but we don't want to be so hard to find.
I think it goes against the principles of capitalism and organisation. So disorganisation is kind of cool and it's fun, but out of that will come organisation. And the rise of the apps, and it's much easier, for instance, to use TweetDeck or one of the Twitter apps than it is to use the Twitter.com browser.
Yeah.
And I think it's just that capitalism incentivises people to improve and innovate service delivery, but then they need a reward for it, right? So it's natural that walls will go up around products and services because you need to be rewarded for putting the effort into creating them. I suppose in some ways there's nothing new about this argument. That's why I've read that story of Chris Anderson several times, and I'm trying to figure out actually what's new. Creative destruction has been part of the story for hundreds of years. I mean, take the railways, for instance, and he actually talks about the railways, that at the beginning of the railways, once they'd standardised the gauging of the tracks, there was an absolute flurry of companies that would deliver services, but in the end it came down to just 3 or 4 conglomerates that could buy up all the rest of them. And the internet is a little bit like that. It's got standard protocols now, of which the web is kind of skates across the surface and delivers an experience, but it can also the internet can host lots of different things, including apps that go down to devices like your iPhone and your iPad. And the analogy is the same. So we're looking at now a concentration of power rather than from the from out of the Wild West, I suppose, is emerging a few. You wouldn't call them monopolies just yet, but certainly powerful and large organisations: Facebook, Google, Apple.
So inherently, is there a problem with this?
No, I think it's great. I think it's just the natural ebb and flow of business, that out of destruction comes creativity, and or at least creativity will destroy what exists and invent new things. And up against iTunes is just so much faster on the web, I suppose. iTunes in the last 18 months probably has emerged as the dominant music delivery platform, but it's under severe threat by a UK European-based outfit called Spotify, which is by all accounts a faster, a better, and an easier service to use. So I just think the battle for space on the internet is no less competitive, but what it is changing from is the free-for-all browser search to more an application-based experience. The good news for people like me in the publishing business is that a lot of these business models are paid-for models, so I may actually be able to start charging again for content.
Right. Yay!
Hooray! When as a user, you may say, "Oh, bummer," but on the other hand, the advertising model on the internet has been so poor and so disappointing that it's very hard for me to find ways to pay writers and photographers and designers to create content that people actually want to read.
Very good point. Thank you very much, Vincent.
It's a pleasure, Wammo. That piece is on Wired.com, and there's actually quite a nice analysis on the Guardian technology page.
Excellent. Go search for those. They're probably the most popular articles over there at the moment. Of course, idealog.co